A UN court says that Chile will not have to give up any territory to Bolivia, the latest chapter in a 100-year-old dispute between the two South American countries.
Welcome to Plain English, the podcast that goes at the right speed for English language learners. Listen now and read the transcript online at plainenglish.com. Now, here's Jeff, your host for today's episode.
Talk about a long-running dispute, almost since it lost territory bordering the Pacific Ocean in the late 1800s. Bolivia has been trying to get it back. Its latest effort was a case at the International Court of Justice in The Hague, but the court ruled against Bolivia and in favor of Chile in an embarrassment for the Bolivian president Evo Morales, who is trying to win his fourth consecutive term. Welcome to Plain English. I'm Jeff. JR is the producer in Mexico, and you are listening to a great podcast for English learners. As most of you know by now, we pick one current events topic each week, and we also review an English expression, phrasal verb, or word at the end of each episode. We haven't done a phrasal verb in a while, so maybe on Thursday, if you remind me, I'll pick a phrasal verb. Today's expression is a sigh of relief, so listen for that during the first part of the program. Today is Monday, October 15th, 2018, and you can find the transcript of today's program at plainenglish.com/94, plainenglish.com/94. I've heard from so many listeners who like to go back in time and listen to all the old episodes in order. And the best way to do that is by URL. Every transcript and audio is available by episode number. So you can go back to 93, 92, 91, all the way back to the very beginning to practice listening to English and learn a little bit more about what's going on in the world. Bolivia's dreams of regaining sovereign territorial access to the Pacific Ocean suffered a setback when the International Court of Justice sided with Chile in the long, simmering dispute between the two nations. The ICJ, as the court is called, was established by the United Nations to settle disputes between countries. And this dispute between Bolivia and Chile has been going on for more than 100 years. Landlocked Bolivia once had a resource-rich chunk of land with 250 miles of Pacific coastline, but it lost it in a war with Chile that lasted from 1879 to 1884. Though Bolivia signed a peace treaty agreeing to the loss of territory in 1904, it has never really accepted its loss and has been trying to get that territory, or at least full access to the Pacific, back ever since. Now, to be fair, Chile does provide Bolivia tariff-free access to a Pacific port, and Bolivia has its own customs station at Chilean ports. But only sovereign territory would have satisfied the Bolivians, who say they were invaded in the original war and that Chile was required to give them full sovereign access to the Pacific. As part of their arguments, the Bolivians said that ceding a little territory would make a small difference to Chile, but would be a big economic boon to their country. But by a 12-3 vote, the ICJ rejected Bolivia's claims, saying that Chile does not have an obligation to negotiate or hand over any type of territory to Bolivia. This came as a shock to Bolivia, especially to its president Evo Morales. Morales was in the courtroom in The Hague, in the Netherlands, where the verdict was read out loud. He had all but promised his countrymen a victory in court. He said in August that his country was very close to getting territorial access to the Pacific, and just days before the verdict, he told people he had a good feeling about how the court would rule. Back in Bolivia itself, people gathered in plazas in cities around the country to watch the verdict live on large television screens, kind of like how some countries watched the World Cup matches. After the verdict was read, people went home dejected. Many expressed a feeling of injustice at the verdict. Bolivia's national pride was wounded when it lost that territory to Chile way back in 1884, and people today still consider it an affront to Bolivia's sovereignty. In fact, every March 23rd, Bolivia celebrates the Day of the Sea to commemorate its irrevocable right, even though they don't currently have that access. Bolivia defiantly maintains a navy to patrol its lakes and rivers, and sees its navy as a symbol of its aspirations to once again regain access to the Pacific. Bolivia is not giving up. Its representative in The Hague said, "This is not a closed subject." This puts Bolivian President Evo Morales in a tough spot. His approval rating is just 29%, and he's preparing to run for a record 4th term in office. The Constitution bars him from doing so, and the people voted in 2016 not to let him run for a 4th term, but a court overruled the people's decision, and Morales is running again anyway. Now, this latest blow, especially on something where he had promised results, makes his re-election even less likely than it was before. Meanwhile, they breathed a sigh of relief in Chile. The Prime Minister, Sebastián Piñera, said that it was a great day for Chile and that the ICJ had done justice. He also said that Chile would continue to talk with Bolivia and negotiate short of giving up territory, but that as long as Bolivia insists on regaining territory, well, there's nothing to talk about. I think people here in Chicago know how they feel in Bolivia. I'll tell you a quick story. It was back in the mid-2000s when the International Olympic Committee was choosing the host country for the 2016 Olympics. This must have been 2009 because our newly elected, massively popular President Barack Obama, who lived in Chicago and represented our state in the Senate before he was elected, Obama went to Europe to plead our case to the IOC. Everyone thought that would seal the deal. They set up massive screens in Daley Plaza here in the center of Chicago. Huge crowds were gathered. They stood outside watching, waiting, expecting all the other cities to go down one by one, leaving Chicago as the last city, the one chosen to host the 2016 Olympics. And do you know what happened? We were the first ones eliminated out of 4. We basically got last place. It was such an insult and embarrassment. Rio got those Olympics. Now, I didn't personally think it was a good idea to host the Olympics, so I wasn't too disappointed, but a lot of people here were. Now, obviously, losing the Olympics and losing a big case over territory are not the same thing, but it was the same kind of feeling for a lot of people here. Wounded pride, right? I want to say hello to Ania from Poland and Caio from Brazil today. Ania has listened to all of the old episodes. That's hours and hours of plain English. Thanks for doing that, Ania. You've heard us improve over time, I hope. And Caio is in Brazil, and he's studying biology. And as many of you know, a lot of material in the sciences is written in English. So he's going to be using English a lot in his studies and in his career. Thanks again to both of you for listening and for sending me a note this week. Chicago is cold and rainy today, and these have been great days to stay inside with a book and watch some games on TV. I'm getting into the baseball playoffs again and starting to pay some more attention to American football. I've also been reading a couple of great books. One of them is called Still Me, which is the third in a series by the author Jojo Moyes. I'm reading that one in Spanish. You might recognize the first book in that series, Me Before You, since that one was made into a movie. And the English book I'm reading is called Little Fires Everywhere, and it is amazing. I really can't put it down. Both of those books are available as audiobooks. So if you're looking for a way to enjoy a good story and also practice your English, try Me Before You or Little Fires Everywhere. They're both great in their own unique way. Not sure if you like audiobooks? Why not take a free trial that gives you a full-length audiobook to keep forever? And if you get addicted, then you can keep subscribing to get a full audiobook every month. Once a month. All the details, including the offer for a free book, are available at plainenglish.com/book, plainenglish.com/BOOK. That will take you to a page that gives you the free offer and explains all the details. plainenglish.com/book. The expression I've chosen to review this week is sigh of relief. A sigh of relief. Let's see if I can do that one for you here right now. When you are relieved, when you were expecting the worst, but the worst didn't happen, you breathe a sigh of relief. Chile thought that it might be forced to negotiate with Bolivia over territorial access to the Pacific. But when the court ruled in its favor, they breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, good thing we didn't lose that case. That's a sigh of relief. A sigh is like a really heavy breath. There are two kinds of sighs. One, a normal sigh is like you're complaining about something for your breath. What? Work late again? Okay, I guess I will. Or I'm running late. I have to be somewhere. I get on the highway and there's bumper to bumper traffic. All right. I guess I'll be late to wherever I'm going. If you watch TV shows or movies with English subtitles, sometimes the subtitles say the word sigh in brackets just to show you what the character is doing. But a sigh of relief is more like something was a close call. You were expecting it to be bad, but it wasn't. Guess who's breathing a sigh of relief right now? I think they are in Canada, right? For a while, it looked like Mexico and the United States were going to sign a new trade agreement in place of NAFTA and leave Canada out of the mix. But at the last minute, Canada joined the agreement and even won some key victories. I bet they're breathing a sigh of relief in Canada now. It wasn't the agreement they were hoping for, but it could have been a lot worse. Disaster averted, right? Have you ever been going maybe a little bit too fast on the highway and then past a police car? That's happened to me, let's just say more than once. And then you look in your mirror and the police car, oh my goodness, thank you, isn't coming after you. That's when you breathe a sigh of relief, and hopefully slow down a little bit. It could have been worse. All right, that's all for today. If you can't get enough plain English, then be sure to sign up for the episode emails at plainenglish.com/mail, plainenglish.com/mail, mail. You get 2 extra goodies by being on the list. First, you get 1 additional word or phrase per episode. And second, you'll get links to the English articles I use to prepare the show. So, if a particular episode catches your interest, you can always read more about it in English. plainenglish.com/mail, M-A-I-L, and enter your details. JR and I will be back on Thursday with episode number 95. See you then.